Alex Neil.
Thank you, Convener. My first question is to Paul Johnston. Paul, at the moment there are a number of people suspended by Police Scotland. The Chief Constable's been in special leave since September, I believe, and I think it's 4 other fairly senior officers who are suspended, one of whom has indicated he is taking his retirement in the meantime. What's the status? What's the current status? I realise you can't comment on the detail, but what's the current status in terms of when these investigations, have they been completed, when are they due to be completed, and when will this be brought to a conclusion?
Well, in a number of the cases to which you refer, the investigations are being conducted by the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner, who is acting as an independent person, and I do not have information today for the committee about the time period for the investigations that she is conducting. I can certainly seek to obtain further information about that and provide that to the committee, but I don't have it today.
Can I ask about the investigations into the allegations against the Chief Constable? Has PERT concluded their investigations into the allegations against the Chief Constable?
No, my understanding is that those investigations are still ongoing.
Okay, and do you have any idea when they're likely to be concluded?
As I say, as of today, I do not have information about the time scale that I can provide to the committee.
Right, and there's no indication from the SPA, are they involved in the investigation?
I know that the SPA is certainly engaging with the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner on the issue, having first passed the matters to the Police Investigation and Review Commissioner. But as I say, I'm sorry, I don't have details as to the time frame for the investigation completing. So
is it not true that the former chair of the SPA, Andrew Flanagan, wanted the Chief Constable reinstated?
Well, the understanding that I have is that the Scottish Police Authority gives consideration to whether or not the period of leave will be brought to an end, and it does so on a regular basis. And the last time that has been considered, again, my understanding is that the board agreed that the period of leave would be continued.
And there's been no representation from Andrew Flanagan to have the Chief Constable reinstated?
There have been discussions, I know, around whether or not the Chief Constable should return. My understanding is that at present, as I say, he is not suspended. He is on a period of leave, so absolutely these matters have been discussed and considered carefully. But the most recent position is that the Chief Constable's leave continues for the time being.
Just to be clear, in any of these discussions, did Andrew Flanagan ask that the Chief Constable would be reinstated?
I think that there have been points at which the view of the former chair was that the Chief Constable was that it may be suitable for the Chief Constable to return.
And how long ago was that?
I don't have the specific dates, although again I could
October, November.
Certainly in recent weeks.
So, what's the procedure? Does the chair make that request to the Cabinet Secretary or to the government or to yourself as the accountable officer? What happened? Did Andrew Flanagan come to you and say he wanted the Chief Constable reinstated? What was the procedure?
It is a decision for the board as to whether or not the Chief Constable, whether or not the Chief Constable's leave should be continued. And indeed, the Chief Constable clearly has a role as well in terms of his, the arrangements. There have been discussions with government on these issues. The position of government is that in all of these considerations, it's important that the board considers the full range of circumstances, and that includes the need for the board to engage with the Police Investigations Review Commissioner on whether or not reinstatement should take place.
So can I just clarify, because there's a very strong rumour going around, and I don't believe rumours until I hear the facts. There's a very strong rumour going around that Mr Flanagan wanted to reinstate the Chief Constable because the investigations found that the Chief Constable had done nothing wrong. Is that true?
Well, I would be very loath to comment on any rumours. All I would say is that the investigation, to the best of my knowledge, has not yet been concluded and is still ongoing. And the board has decided most recently that the Chief Constable's period of leave should be continued. But
just to be clear, the previous chairman did make representations to the view that the Chief Constable should be reinstated.
What I can confirm is that I understand that at certain points over recent months, the Chief Constable, the chair of the authority, the former chair of the authority, was of the view that reinstatement may be appropriate.
Why did that not happen then? Is that a government decision?
No, it is a decision for the board. From the point of view of government, I can certainly confirm that our interest has been in ensuring that proper processes and procedures are followed at all times, as you would expect. And we have certainly wanted to ensure that the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner would be involved and would have a say in terms of her view on the return or otherwise of the Chief Constable.
So presumably then what you're saying is when the former chair made it clear that he wanted the Chief Constable reinstated, that the Scottish Government's position was that that's a matter for the board and the Scottish Government would have no view on the matter?
Well, the view from government, certainly the view from the view that I would take, is that while it is a decision for the board, there is an interest on the part of the government in ensuring that due process has been followed at all times, and we would certainly seek assurances that due process was being followed.
Process had been followed, and the chair wanted presumably by the time the chair said that the former chair said he wanted the Chief Constable reinstated, he was satisfied due process had been complied with. So presumably then, if he made that request, the response from government would be that's a matter for the board. Or would the government express a view as to whether the Chief Constable should or should not be reinstated?
It is not for the government to make a decision at this stage on whether or not the Chief Constable should or should not be reinstated. Discussions that let me be clear that discussions that we have had with the police authority on these matters have focused on the need to ensure that due process is followed, and that those with an interest, in particular the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner, are consulted.
Can I just ask then finally to be absolutely clear, when Andrew Flanagan asked that the Chief Constable was reinstated, that the Scottish Government's response was not to refuse to allow that to happen?
Well, in the course of discussions about whether or not the Chief Constable be reinstated, the government's concern and the point that the government has emphasised is around the need for due process to be followed in that matter.
That's not my question. My question is, you confirm that Andrew Flanagan did request or did say that the Chief Constable should be reinstated a number of weeks ago. So why has he not been reinstated?
Well, at least in part, that is likely to be because of the point that I've emphasised, that the need for full process to be followed, the need for those with an interest and a locus in this issue to be consulted, and for proper consideration to be given to the issues. And my understanding is that now having happened, with parties having been consulted, the decision has been taken to continue the period of leave.
So who's consulted?
Well, in particular, my expectation is that, given that the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner is the body with the possession of all of the facts, that she should be consulted before decisions are made on return.
Before Andrew Flanagan made this request, he must have been aware of the outcome of the investigations into the allegations against the Chief Constable. One presumes that the Chair didn't express the view the Chief Constable should be reinstated without him, first of all, being cleared by PAC. So, given that that would be the situation, unless you're telling me that was not the situation, he has expressed a view that the Chief Constable should be reinstated. So, was that discussed at an SPA board meeting?
The SPA board has certainly given consideration to these issues, yes.
specifically the Chair's view that the Chief Constable should be reinstated, was that discussed at the board? Was that considered at the board?
I'm sorry, I don't have details as to. I think these are issues that will have been discussed in part by the board meeting privately, and I was not a party to those discussions.
Well, I know you're not party to it, but you know you get the agenda in advance. So in the agendas that you've seen in advance, I think you need to be a bit straighter with us here, Paul. Remember that you're effectively under oath. So I'll ask you again, has the SPA board discussed the view of the then Chair that the Chief Constable should be reinstated? Yes or no?
So I think the SPA board will have discussed that. I'm not sure it would be on a formal agenda, certainly not an agenda that I have seen, on the basis that these would be matters that would be discussed privately. But I'm certainly clear that the reason that the role for government here is around due process, and we have made clear our expectations that due process will be followed.
Right, so you're telling me that the SPA board has only, in discussing this item, which is of absolutely top importance to the whole police service in Scotland, where we have an individual, the Chief Constable, on 210 grand a year, presumably on full salary while he's on special leave, that was not done at a formal board meeting, that it's part of the kind of underhand activity we heard about earlier.
Well, I think there is provision for the board to meet in private, and my understanding is those decisions were made privately.
So there was a private board meeting that discussed whether, in the view of the chairman, if the chairman was right in wanting the Chief Constable reinstated. So that was a private meeting. You obviously had advance notice that it was going to be discussed, even although the discussion was in private and you're not part of the discussion. So what was the outcome of the board meeting?
We would not necessarily have notice of a private board. Come
on, Paul, we're talking about the Chief Executive. Are you telling me, as the accountable officer, the SPA board meets in private to discuss the view of the then chairman that the Chief Constable should be reinstated, and you, as the accountable officer, don't know the outcome of that meeting? I don't believe you.
Well, I am confirming that I am not cited on all of the private meetings of the Scottish Police Authority. I've confirmed to you that there have been discussions with the chair the former chair about whether or not the Chief Constable should return. And the concern of government is that that is a decision that is taken properly and with full regard to due process, and that has been the extent of our involvement. The extent of our involvement has been to require that due process to be followed.
You're saying, as the accountable officer, you were aware of a private meeting of the SPA board to discuss the view of the former chairman that the Chief Constable should be reinstated. You can't tell me when that meeting took place. You rightly tell me you weren't involved in those discussions, but you can't tell me the outcome of the meeting. Well, surely the chair would have, at the very least, phoned you and said, look, we have had this discussion and this is the view of the board. I mean, what you're saying is quite frankly not credible.
Well, I was not called after meetings to be told about the outcome of
this meeting a number of weeks ago, and you don't know the outcome, and you're the accountable officer.
Well, I'm the accountable officer for the Justice portfolio. I'm not the accountable officer for the Scottish Police Authority, and the Scottish Police Authority itself is responsible for ensuring that it complies with its obligations as the employer.
So nobody's told the Cabinet Secretary that the Chair wants to reinstate the Chief Constable. The SPA board has discussed it in private, and nobody's told the Cabinet Secretary they're discussing it, or what the outcome is. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I am saying that the SPA is able to meet privately, but on an issue such as the reinstatement of the Chief Constable, I'm also absolutely clear that the role of government would be around ensuring that all due process is followed. And I think if we look at the situation as at present, you can see that the Chief Constable remains on leave.
Can I just clarify, has there been any refusal by the Chief Constable to come back to work?
Not so far as I'm aware.
Okay.